flowers down the road. These folks are from Tulsa. Is that
Yes.
Tulsa, Oklahoma. Wow. So yeah, actually I just got done telling them about Edison's obituary. It's kind of interesting. We say nobody reads newspapers anymore. It's been a year or two, but yeah, Edison died 1931 at the age of 84. There's nothing like coming in on a tour and starting at the end. So we'll talk about some other cylinder phonographs for you guys. We'll play some music for you later. These cylinder phonographs here, this model, and these two are more for dictation machines, not for music. So they allow you to make your own recording. So you see some microphone here and here. And this is from the early part of the century through about mid-century, and eventually these are kind of taken over by magnetic tape recording. That's what kind of puts them out of business. You see this advertisement here for one of those machines. This woman is speaking to one in that office setting. Now these two devices do not record. They're called shaving machines. What they do is erase the cylinder. So mostly in the office, different than music where you want to play a song multiple times. Usually once you have your letter typed up or whatever, you can get rid of this. So you put this thing on here and this shaves it smooth. So you can make another recording. You get about 5 uses out of one of these. And eventually it becomes so thin you can't use it anymore. So kind of the dryer to the washer, 2 different devices to work out with these dictation machines. Okay, any questions about those? Okay, we'll talk about movies next. Edison, of course, always involved in media, with his music machines, and then when he creates his version of the camera, the movie camera, and the projector, of course, he also makes movies. Now, I do have some Edison films I can show you. And let me see here. That's for you. That's for you. And
so what are they?
You get the Boxers.
Flip box or flip?
So these are flip books, but they are truly Edison films that he shot early in the day when you would have watched just short clips of movies. Now that's little Annie Oakley there doing a little target practice. Those are guys who are boxing, and then that's a movie scene where there's some kissing going on. It's a little racy there.
This is from
PG-13,
1878.
Did it say 1878?
Is that original?
That seems too early. I would say early 1890s is probably what we're talking about. This camera here was actually patented in 1897. Now that's a later on of a version, but yeah, we're talking about the 1890s for the most part. And I'll show you how the movies played on a projector. Now this is a home projecting kinetoscope. Would have been quite expensive, but pretty rare. Now this is a theatrical projector that you would have gone to the movies to see, or not see the movie. This would have been, of course, for the back of the theater. And the way this thing works is you have the controllers here, light source here, the lens here focuses up on the screen, and then this whole gearing apparatus kind of does the heavy lifting. You put the film reel here, you thread the film through this little doohickey opens. It's called the film gate. So the film, of course, once the light goes through it, it shows the movie, but the film travels down to the bottom film reel, and all this happens manually. That's when I'm turning this crank. Check the schedule and see when Oppenheimer's playing. I don't know about that one. And that's the way a projecting kinetoscope worked back in, this one's from 1897. So this is the very early days of theatrical projection. Still about 30 years away from talking pictures. So definitely the silent movie era way back then. Edison is making movies. His company's made about 1,500 movies. He kind of tried to lock down the whole business. It's no accident that Hollywood is 3,000 miles away from New Jersey because they were trying to break away from Edison. A lot of legal stuff with all that, with the patents. But eventually, of course, anyone could make movies. Now, Edison shot his movies in this movie studio. And so this is presumably the first movie studio in the U.S. This is a rebuilt version of what it originally was, and this is still in New Jersey. What's interesting about this building, if you notice here at the bottom, This little platform is circular. It would actually allow the building to spin around. And that's so you can affect the lighting. Because, of course, sunlight is the best way to light something. So you could open the door. Actually, the roof was hinged so it could pop up. So if the sun was in a certain part of the sky, you just spin the building around and can shoot whatever scene you want. So a very clever way to cover a lot of ground when you're shooting different scenes in one building. So we're going to go out front and talk about the light bulb. You will notice in the first case here on the left, there's a number of other things about motion pictures. Also notice on the right, we have the sewing machine, not invented by Edison, but motorized by Edison. You see in the back right there, there's a motor. And also notice our lovely Christmas tree. It's brand new.
So how's it
one,
different than the Singer sewing machines?
So Howe invents the sewing machine. Singer's right there behind him. They use the treadle style, like pedal.
Yeah, I have one.
And that would have been common. So this would have replaced, instead of having a pedal, you turn this crank just by using the motor. So it's electrified, basically. And I guess, so Edison clearly doesn't invent the first one, but he invents the motorized one. Incandescent light bulbs. And to be clear, that's what we're talking about with Edison. Of course, we're in the LED era today. But Edison patents his incandescent bulb in 1880. There's the patent. All these are authentic bulbs minus this one. This is a replica of that patented bulb from this patented in 1880. That was from 1879. Of course, Edison, he kind of struggles to get this done. He's pretty confident he can create an incandescent light bulb, but the problem he runs into is what substance to use for the filament. Most of his filaments, he tried all kinds of fibers and threads and such. His lab assistants even tried their beard hair. That did not work either. But he tried to find something that would last long. Most of them would fizzle out or whatever. So what Edison eventually does, a couple different things. One, he uses a vacuum bulb. So largely takes the oxygen out of the bulb. You want it to glow, not flame. So that kind of tempers it. He also decides to use a carbonized filament. So originally, white cotton thread coated with carbon. Even better, thin strips of bamboo coated with carbon. You put that in a vacuum bulb, you electrify, that carbon glows, and that provides his first successful bulb. Now don't get too excited about this one. 13 and a half hours, that's it. Which kind of sounds like a dud to us, but to me it kind of shows you how bad the other ones must have been if he was happy with that. Now, clearly nobody is selling 13-hour bulbs. First off, nobody has electricity. But Edison clearly knows he needs a longer lasting bulb. So eventually they go through many other filaments that get better and better, and finally they found the best one there in 1907. They start using tungsten filaments. So tungsten, of course, is a type of metal, and those very thin tungsten filaments would burn much more economically and efficiently. And you could have a bulb there that costs less than 20 cents, it would burn more than 1,000 hours. And more or less, the incandescent bulb is perfected here, which is a funny thing about the museum. When I first started working here, little kids would come in. You try to show them these incandescent light bulbs that are 100 years old and impress them, and most of them aren't really impressed. And then I kind of realized it's because light bulbs don't particularly look that much different. These bulbs are old, but we got lots of retro style bulbs that look very much like this today. Even LED bulbs, don't look remarkably different. I think humans have kind of decided how they like their light bulb to look, and that's kind of the way they look. Some variety here, but the way they screw in and the shape of them is very similar. One thing I will tell you about some of these, some of them you see have the tip, and then some of them are smooth. So that came about with the glass blowing process when they were using the vacuum. Basically, that originally came out the top of the bulb, and so it's more or less an imperfection. Eventually, they swapped that process around. You pull the vacuum out the base, and then when you screw the base on, you could have a smooth top bulb. So that's why you see two different style bulbs. But of course, today, many of our modern bulbs still have the tip because we think that looks super cool. They probably charge us a couple extra dollars for that. So the last thing in this room is this poster here. In 1883, Louisville hosts what's called the Southern Exposition, which was quite an event, and quite an event for Louisville to get to host. Of course, most of the most progressive technology and such was going on in the Northeast. So for Louisville, a southern city, just 18 years past the Civil War, to be able to host an event like this, kind of like the World's Fair, was quite important and quite exciting for the movers and shakers here. They all get together, and 3 miles southwest of us, they build this all wooden temporary structure. One of the largest wooden-only buildings ever built in the world. And it's going to house all the exhibits of all the latest and greatest agricultural and technological innovations. And it's also going to show off Edison's light bulb, because he comes back and adds those two little structures, basically power stations. And throughout this complex, he puts 5,000 light bulbs, the largest display of public lighting anywhere in the world to this point. So it becomes quite an event. The president, Chester Arthur, comes from DC to Louisville to open this event. Edison's there making sure all the bulbs are working, and they say people would come down in the evening just to watch the lights come on. Certainly people had seen light bulbs, but never to this scale. Now, this is supposed to last 100 days, but it draws tens of thousands of people right from the get-go, and they realize it needs to last longer. They end up doing it 100-day segments over the next 5 years. And when it's over, after it draws millions of people to this thing, Louisville makes a little bit of a suspect decision, and they dismantle basically the whole thing.
Wow.
Now, we understand it's a wooden temporary structure. It's not going to last forever. But, you kind of wish they'd have saved some portion of it and made it a tribute to this event. Because largely, people from Louisville come in here, look at this poster, and have no idea what I'm talking about. So it's kind of a lost piece of history. Now, if you do go 3 miles southwest of us today, you'll find modern-day 4th Street with cars instead of carriages. You will find Louisville Central Park, which looks something like that today. But instead of that structure, what you'll find there is lots of beautiful Victorian mansions. So this becomes Louisville's first ritzy suburb. And people move south from downtown to this district. Today we call it Old Louisville. Lots of beautiful Victorian homes of all types. About 40 square blocks of them. Many of those homes built with the materials and lumber left over from that structure. So quite an amazing thing, but again, kind of a lost piece of history. Now, for our purposes here at the Edison House, it's kind of a bookending to our little story. We have basically an anonymous teenager living in this little room next door and working at the telegraph office. 17 years later, when he's back, everybody knows Edison because he's bringing his light bulb to the Southern Exposition. So for you guys that are done, and even for you guys, we'll take a little break here. I do have a
So this was his laboratory. Morse code keys have not changed much from, I have some back when I was into ham radio. They all look the same.
So would y'all like to check out the historic room, or did you already go in? It was built in 1850. It's a duplex shotgun. So the owners of the house lived in that half of it. Edison rented that room. Probably somebody else rented this room. Edison lived here for about a year and a half. Worked at the Western Union office while he was here. Now the things in there don't belong to him. You know, we weren't. When he left, of course, he wasn't famous yet, so nobody knew to save the house until many years later. We've had hold of it since about 1980. And there is an addition to the house, so everything you see through these doors here was added on. Used to be the kitchen was kind of an outdoor kitchen right back here, and then there would have been an outhouse over in the back. Today we have those restrooms over there, and the kitchen back here we use as an office. So in this room, of course, we have the telegraph units. I'll show what that looks and sounded like there. Did you say you were a ham radio operator? Or?
Yeah, as a kid.
Yeah.
His dad was really into it.
My dad was really into it. You used to have to know Morse code, and no, it's not, and I hated it because you had to learn Morse code before you went any further. And I was just telling her how this looks. I have one that looks just like that.
Yeah. Yeah, these are from I think from the early 1900s, I think. So not quite as old as what Edison would have used, but they look pretty old to me. Older than I'm not sure what they look like today. I don't know if any of them look particularly
well.
modern.
This part here looks the same.
Yeah, that's pretty.
I mean,
From
you
one to
didn't
the
you
other,
didn't
yeah.
use that because that's for your telegraph to transmit from that one to this one. But
Yeah.
you got that hooked up to a radio, but it looks just like.
Yeah.
And then
Basically, have a couple of cylinder phonographs that operate here, and here's some other versions. And of course, this came about in 1877. Edison was 30 years old, and this is really kind of the prime of Edison's career, and really what makes him world famous. He invents this in Menlo Park just a year or so after he opens that laboratory. Now, this device I'm going to play here is from 1905. It was a $20 unit. You see on this advertisement there. That's about 730 something bucks in today's dollars. Now, the way this works, there's no electricity, but when you turn this crank, it tightens a spring up inside. And that's pretty tight there. When I click this over, that spring releases its energy. This belt spins the cylinder. Under here is the needle. And when I place it in the groove, it'll play a little music.
so one disc is playing one song,
One song.
and
Yeah.
how long does the disc last?
Across there. This is a 2-minute song.
2 minutes song.
Yeah, so you put it here, it goes across, and when it gets
And-
to the end, it just stops, and you can lift it up.
And the disc is how old?
Probably turn of the century, 120 something.
So I got all these cassette tapes, all this family stuff that I got some out the other day, and they're falling apart
Yeah.
because it's cellophane with
Oh, yeah.
iron oxide on it, and
Well,
it's
wear it
falling
out.
apart. And now you got 100-year-old stuff that's still
These
going.
still play. Now, so a lot of these we just handled, but yeah, because I've got some out that do or don't play. But most of the ones that we hand out, it doesn't matter. But yeah, that one particularly sounds pretty good. And the last one, we have gramophones as well. Now, somebody else invented this. His name was Noah Berliner, a German-born American. But Edison made his version of this too. And of course, this is more familiar to the way we play our vinyl records today. And this winder can be a little wonky, so I'm going to give this a whirl and see if this will work today. There we go. And when I click this, that starts to spin. The needle is under here, and of course I can put this wherever I want. And when I drop it on here, it's going to play a foxtrot.
So what year is that?
When
When did vinyl records come out? In the 20s?
About mid-century.
They're
So the
turn of the
78.
century?
So this is actually a pre-78. This is quite a bit heavier and thicker. The 78s were a little bit thinner. This one actually plays at 80 RPM, but eventually they standardized that speed. These are around till about mid-century, and then LPs and vinyl come along, and of course then the 45s and all that. So yeah, these are, you know, probably the very final days of this type of record, if you want to handle it all now. But if there's anything you want to look at or take other pictures or ask any questions, you're welcome to.
Well, thank you. We enjoyed it.